Hi, my name is Cheryl Bell, and today I'm going to tell you my Greek myth, King Midas and the Golden Touch. Long ago in the ancient lands of Greece lived a king named King Midas. He was a very fair and just king, and he ruled his lands wisely. His lands were prosperous and beautiful. He had beautiful gardens, which he and his daughter, who he loved so much, named Marigold, would walk through daily. There was nothing in the world that he loved more than his daughter, maybe except for one thing. He loved gold. Now, King Midas was very wealthy. He probably had more gold than anyone could ever need or want, but he still wanted more gold. One day, he was walking alone in his gardens. He came across a satyr, a half man, half goat, lying in his garden. He comes up to him and he wakes him up. "Hello there, what are you doing in my gardens?" The satyr sat up. He was a little woozy from the night before of drinking. "Who are you?" "Why, I'm King Midas. What are you doing in my gardens?" The satyr sat there for a while, bewildered. He said, "I do not know what I'm doing here. I guess I must have strayed from my god Dionysus." "You are company with god Dionysus?" King Midas asked. And the satyr said, "Yes, Dionysus is my best friend and I am his guardian." So the king thought for a moment. He looked down at the satyr and he said, "Well then, you are welcome to stay in my castle for as long as you need before Dionysus comes back for you." So as it was, he brought him back to his castle, and he wined him and he dined him, gave him the finest clothes to wear, let him sleep in the finest of rooms and bedding, until the god Dionysus finally came back. Well, when the god Dionysus came, he saw his friend Silenus being very well taken care of. He was so pleased at this. He looked at King Midas and said, "Well, King Midas, I thank you for taking such good care of my best friend. I would like to grant you with one wish." And the king thought about it for a minute. One wish? Well, it's got to be a good one. What is he going to wish for? And then he's thinking, and all of a sudden it came to him. "Gold! Gold! I want everything I touch to turn to gold." Now, to this, Dionysus stopped for a minute and said, "Are you certain, King Midas? This might not be very wise." But King Midas didn't care. What could be unwise with having everything you touch turn to gold, because he loved gold so much? So the god Dionysus granted his wish. He said, "Yes, King Midas, I will grant you your wish. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, you will have the power that everything you touch will turn to gold." So he gathered his friend Silenus and they left. Oh, and King Midas was so excited. He went to bed that night and he could barely even sleep. He's lying in bed, thinking about everything. Everything he touches is going to turn to gold. He will have a whole kingdom of gold. So he wakes up the next morning. Wasn't exactly certain if it actually was working. Gets out of bed and he touches his bed, and lo and behold, it turned to gold. Oh, to this he was so excited. He ran through the castle, touching everything. Chair turned to gold. He touched a statue and it turned to gold. He ran outside into his gardens and he's touching the fountain. And lo and behold, the fountain and the water in the fountain, everything turned to gold. He's touching a tree and it went to gold. He touched flowers and they turned to gold. Oh, splendid! He had so much work to do. His whole kingdom would shine and glitter of gold. And finally, he realized he was famished. We must have a feast. We have to have a feast to celebrate my new gift. So he calls all of his people. They sat down at a glorious feast in front of him. He was famished by this point because evidently turning everything into gold takes a lot out of a person. So he sat down at dinner. Famished, he grabs for a piece of bread. He's about to eat it, then realized it had turned to gold. Oh. Well, we just keep trying. He grabbed an apple and it turned to gold, and then he kept touching. He touched biscuits and he touched his meats and everything turned to gold. And he's thirsty, was very thirsty. He grabbed his goblet of wine and went to drink it, and that too turned to gold. Oh, he thought about this. What would he do? He would starve. He would certainly starve. Oh, maybe. He grabbed a fork. That's it. He grabbed a fork. And that turned to gold. But then certainly the food would be fine. One last attempt. He went and he stuck his fork into some food. He brought it out. And that turned to gold as well. Oh, what has he done? What has he done? He most certainly will starve. He was distraught by this whole gift. Now was a curse. Right at that moment, his daughter Marigold, who he loved so much, Father, Father, she ran into his arms and he scooped her into his arms. Oh, this cannot be. He looked down. Tears fell from his eyes. His daughter had turned to gold. Oh, so he starts crying out and he calls, "Oh God, Dionysus, please, I have made a very big mistake. Please come down." God Dionysus came and he looks at the king and he says, "Well, King Midas, whatever is the problem? I granted you your wish. You should be happy." And he's, of course, looking at his daughter. He's looking at everything he turned to gold. He's looking at the food on the table. And he says, "I have been very unwise indeed. Please, please, please," he begs the god, "take away this curse. It is not a wish. It is not a grant. It's not magic. I just want this curse to be gone." So the god was very kind. He says, "King Midas, I shall take away this curse. What you need to do, go to the river Pactolus, dip yourself in and bathe under the water. Once you do, this curse will be gone. Make sure you bring water back and sprinkle it on everything that you turn to gold, and it shall be restored back to its normal order." So right away, King Midas ran to the river Pactolus. He dove in. He's sprinkling water all over him. And as he's doing this, flecks of gold are going into the river. So he had to try it. He gets out of the water and he touches a tree, and it stayed a tree. And all the flowers in front of him were still flowers. "Oh God, thank you. So he grabs up some water. He runs back to his castle. He sprinkles it over his daughter, and she is restored back to her normal self. And she hugs him and he embraces her. Never again will he ever be so foolish to do such a thing. He realized at that point, he looked around and he loved everything around him. It did not need to sparkling gold to be beautiful. It was beautiful because the flowers had a scent and the trees were green. Everything was restored back to normal. King Midas was so happy. From that day on, he never wished for anything foolish again, or I don't think he ever wished for anything at all. He was just happy. And from this day forward, true story, when you go to the river Pactolus, you will still see flecks of gold in it today.